clear. And so when I'm at the preview event and I get to Lalabarina, and this was literally the first time I fought Lalabarina, and it was sub 3 minutes. I was like, oh, that was strange. Sub 3 minutes for a new monster that I've never, these are like speed run times, and I'm a casual. Like, this is a little bit weird. Like, that one was the one that threw me off the very first time. But then I got carded by small monsters on Rompopolo, and that made me really happy because I was like, oh yes, make small monsters like cool again, make them attack us. But that only happened once. So I was like, oh, okay, well, you know. But yeah, I think that it is easier than I would have expected. But during the review period, the only other person that I spoke to is Cowboy. And Cowboy is better at Souls games than I am. He's probably better at some weapons in Monster Hunter than I am. So I'm like, yeah, Cowboy's not going to be like a perfectly good example to gauge difficulty off of as well. But both of us were talking and we were like, yeah, Palico's super easy. Like the Palico just makes things way too easy. And he's the one who was telling me about Sacred Recovery because I forgot that Sacred Recovery existed. And when I became aware that Sacred Recovery was a thing, I intentionally didn't use it. So I don't have muscle memory for Sacred Recovery, which is good.
Yeah.
So I don't use it, and things are still challenging. But again, it shouldn't have to be a necessity to not use the systems that the game gives you. See, that there's a difference between From Software games and this, and I'm not saying that Monster Hunter should be a From Software level difficulty because I come to Monster Hunter for different reasons. But what I'm saying is, in a From Software game, you go out of your way to get summoning spirits, which is fine to use before people get into that discussion. There's no reason why people want to. It's a valid thing. It's in there. It's meant to be used if you want to. And if you don't, you can feel free to use it. But you have to go out of your way to get the spirits. You have to learn how to use the spirits. Whereas the Palico is just on by default. That I feel is like the main difference, right? The Sacred and the Palico are on by default. Whereas summoning other players and summoning spirits is something that you go out of your way to do to make the experience easier for yourself, which is fine. But Palicos have always been there. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could have like a special Palico drug that puts him in the state that he's in right now, like the frenzy drug. This is actually a frenzied Palico. That's why he's so good. And you have to drug like what we had in Sunbreak and Rise. We drugged the Palicos in Sunbreak and Rise. We gave him like the potent Felvine, whatever it was, the pink thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you'd have to do that to get your Palico to be stronger, because at least that way you'd have to go out of your way to do it. I don't know. Like the way that me and Gaijin were saying is that they should nerf, and I don't know if Gaijin fully was on board with this or not, but this is my idea. They should nerf the current Palico by like 50% across the board.
Across the board.
And then, yeah, like every ability, 50% less effective. Or maybe in the case of the Cure, 50% increased cooldown. I don't know. But you get the idea. Generally reduce its effectiveness by 50% and then give him back that when you choose a specialization. So it's like, oh, you choose the damage special. Okay, it can do the damage that he was doing before, but he can only do damage things. He can no longer heal you and cure you and do all of these things.
Mm.
And then we were like dividing like what would be the things that you would group together, which abilities you'd group together. But basically it would be a similar situation to World. So he would be effective at one thing, not everything.
So I have a question. This is not related to Wilds, but it's kind of important.
Okay.
I remember that you said that you when you record these podcasts, you record a lot of fail safes, because I just looked to my left and I realized my OBS had crashed a while ago, and I don't know when that is. So there's a lot that I must have missed.
Crap.
Do you still?
No, I'm only recording my audio.
Okay.
I would have, if you had asked, I would have recorded yours.
No,
Shit.
I mean, I didn't expect it to have crashed. I started back up, but I don't know how much I've lost. No, don't pause it. Don't pause it. Don't pause it. We'll just have to keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, because I have no idea what would have where we would have had to restart. Just,
oh, no.
You know what? I'll take your audio and then I will fake my
you'll
parts.
ADR the questions.
I will try and remember what I said, and we'll see. Or we'll just start from here. I don't fucking know. I don't know where it got lost.
I could have done that, but I was just like, oh, this will make a smaller file for him, so it'll be less problematic.
Hopefully, it won't be too bad, and we didn't lose much. But
Okay.
okay, we still talking about the title updates. There was one more thing. What was bothering me about the title updates? Xochitl. I'm kind of bugged by Xochitl.
Okay.
I kind of don't like that. So I don't like Xochitl's place in the story to begin with. So I don't like the equal dragon weapon having come to life and being killable. I don't like it being a thing you can kill with a stick at the end of low rank of all things, especially because like it seems like it canonically is made out of like Fatalis parts and Geismagorm and Elatrion and Safi'jiiva parts because it has a lot of attacks that harken to those that invoke those monsters' attacks.
And so, it's got Gore Magala influences.
Yeah, it's got all of and that's what the Equal Dragon always was in the lore. They took a bunch of Elder Dragons and they made the Equal Dragon weapon. It's humanity's strongest thing. And in this game, it destroyed the ancient civilization. The ancient civilization mastered life, can make monsters out of everything, controls the weather. It's an eternal civilization that got destroyed by the Equal Dragon weapon, and you go and beat it to death with a stick, and that bothers me really bad. Because you have something like Fatalis at the end of World, and Fatalis is this thing. He's got presence, he's got pizzazz, you know, and you could see his fire breath, and it melts the castle gate down to nothing. It's this gigantic metal gate, so you could see how this thing could destroy a kingdom. You could see it with your eyeballs. And Xochitl has white Fatalis lightning. It's got all kinds of crazy shit, and I'm like, if the ancient civilization could kill Fatalises and use them to make this thing, and white Fatalises maybe even, and they can use it to get this thing. First of all, what could they possibly be trying to fucking fight against that it would need something like that? And second of all, this is kind of piddly given its lore. So what I thought was going to happen with Xochitl was that, because, you know, high rank kind of ends pretty abruptly. The story doesn't have any cutscenes at the end. You just kind of stops with Nada's thing, and you finally kill Arkveld. And even in Monster Hunter Rise at the end of high rank, even though the story was kind of cut off, it still had a cutscene. It still had like credits. It still had it had a ending where it's like, okay, yes, more stuff's going to happen. So I kind of expected, well, the story must be unfinished with Xochitl. Xochitl's going to come back, and it's going to be a thing. I was kind of expecting how Fatalis was done at the end of Iceborne's title updates. You had a couple of teasers about Fatalis. Elatrion teased it, so I thought it was going to be its own thing at the end of the base game. Xochitl was going to be this big Fatalis tier difficult monster, because like Behemoth was super difficult. Extreme Behemoth at the end of World's title updates was super difficult. It's going to be something like that. It's going to be super hard, and it will live up to its name as the Equal Dragon weapon. It'll live up to all this stuff. But now they're just kind of bringing it back for the first title update, and I was like, huh, it's kind of disappointing. I thought it was going to have all this presence going forward.
I mean, did they explain in the video whether or not it's going to have like its own story quest? I expect there to be more story surrounding Xochitl, but I could be wrong.
I thought
maybe it's just like a memory type thing, like what they do in 14. That's how they do the higher challenges. They're like, here's how we remember what you did, and it's just like an extreme harder version.
That's funny.
It's a bard. It's just a bard that's like, oh yeah, let me tell you the story, and he just exaggerates everything so the monster is harder.
I like that. That's a cool way of doing it. But in World, all it did was just Safi'jiiva has appeared. I think it's just going to be that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I have to see what they're going to do in the title update to really understand. Now, in regards to us just beating him, I think the idea is this is not the final. The version that we play in low rank is not like the final version of Xochitl. Like, we interrupted it as it was absorbing power or whatever. But I don't know how they would justify another one that would fully absorb the power of the Dragon Torch to become powerful to that level. Like, I understand that the power level of it is kind of like disappointing because it's a fairly easy fight. But then again, so was Xeno'jiiva, but Xeno'jiiva was still a baby.
Yeah, and
I don't know if
Xeno'jiiva
that's
wasn't
like the
made
same
of
idea.
Fatalises, though. That's my thing, because I have a lot
I
of
mean,
respect for
thing is,
Fatalis.
I don't know if this was being made to defend from Fatalis. We don't actually know what they were defending themselves against. I think the only thing that is heard is like, oh, Harkin says something about when war came to our gates.
Yeah.
This is what we did.
Well, no,
So,
I don't.
oh,
I don't
okay.
think that they were trying to defend from Fatalises, because if they can take Fatalises and turn them into Zogias anyway, like what's Fatalis to these people? The problem is that it's made from Fatalises, so it should be stronger than a Fatalis. If you could kill a Fatalis easily, the thing that you're making should be stronger than a Fatalis.
No, because Fatalis is pure. And this is like a hybrid mutant.
But if they can kill a Fatalis to make this thing, and the point of this thing is to defend them from something super strong, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, nobody said that they were that smart. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is for.
I just
Zoshia's
wanted some
level.
presence. I just wanted some pizzazz
Yeah, no,
to it.
I agree. He should be harder, but then again, I can say that for every other monster in the game as well, except 5 strength Gore Magala.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah, 5 strength Gore Magala is the only thing that I was like, oh, this thing like hits different. But that's pretty much the only one. But while we're on the topic of story, so you said the story was bad. I like the story.
I hate the story.
Damn.
Harsh. I haven't heard anyone explain to me why, though. I have heard a couple of people say they like the story. I watched Jacob's video where he gave a positive review for Monster Hunter Wilds, and he's a big story meta narrative enjoyer, and it's like, okay, finally I'm going to someone's going to explain to me why they think the story is good. And I saw that he released it early on his Patreon, so I was like, you know what, I can't wait 24 hours for it to go on YouTube. I'm going to pay $250 for Patreon to be able to see it. And so he gets to the section where his story, and he's like, I'm not going to analyze the story, I like it, I think it's good. And I'm like, that's it. Refund. Where's my refund? What do you mean you're not going to analyze the story? What do you mean you're not going to explain why you think
it's the only reason I clicked it.
Just threw my hands up in the air.
So the thing is, I'm not a big lore buff when it comes to Monster Hunter, right? So my notions of the overarching stories of the world and all of that stuff are probably going to be inaccurate in some situations. But my thought process was that Wyveria could be the origin of everything.
Yeah.
Of every race.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I don't know if that is the case or not. Because again, I'm not well versed enough in the lore. And there's like a society.
They're called Wyverians.
In there was like,
so.
Yeah, the Wyverians. Yeah. But like the Tashin, I think, explains it that they're the ones who are the ancestors and all of that. And so in that society, we had both Wyverians and humans, because Tashin is one of the descendants of the people who were in Wyveria. But the thing is, why is he human? Is this like some offshoot of the Wyverian race that created humans? How does that work? But fundamentally, I believe that everybody came from Wyveria. And this is one of those things that, why is it called the Forbidden Lands? Because the guild knows what happened in Wyveria. That's why they call the Forbidden Lands. They don't want people going out there and figuring out the That's the thing. We don't know. This is my theory. That's what I'm saying. And this is why I like it, because I've always said, I think the guild is shady as hell. And I think that this game absolutely proves that the guild is shady as hell. They probably know that the people of Wyveria were making these crazy experiments. And as you also know from other conversations, I like the concept of the equal dragon weapon, because again, it just reinforces my ideas that the guild is shady as hell. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna beat monsters by making this zombie looking dragon made out of metal parts and pieces of other dragons. And it takes, like, what was it, 100 dragons to kill or whatever it is in order to make one and whatever. So like this super shady stuff that is happening, right? And the guild knows it's there. And what do? They call it the Forbidden Lands. Like, another theory that I have is I think that Fabius is not working with the guild. I think Fabius is kind of working against the guild, Like there's probably some type of like controversy going on behind the scenes where the guild is like, "What are you doing over there in the Forbidden Lands, Fabius?" And Fabius is like, "I need to see my investigation through." And he's fighting everybody. But again, this is all stuff that is being implied to me through what I experienced of the story. So it's not the story itself. I just like when I say I like the story, I like what I experienced because it gives me this narrative. And you can say that that's headcanon, whatever, because I don't actually know if that's the truth or not. But I like how bold it was. I like that they were like, yeah, we're doing fucking this ancient civilization. They made monsters. Guess what? And the thing is, there are even more implications there. So like when you see Fulgur Anjanath, right? He's got all those guardian markings on him and all that stuff, and it's Guardian Fulgur Anjanath. But we have, for instance, the implication that like Guardian Arkveld was able to break free from its guardian genes or whatever and laid an egg that then created actual Arkveld. What if we come to find that not Guardian, but like Fulgur Anjanath actually originated in Wyveria as Guardian Fulgur Anjanath, and he is actually the original Anjanath. And the Anjanath that we see is just an offshoot, because that's one of those things that not a lot of people are even aware of. But the monsters that get the original name, like Rathalos, Anjanath, Puke, all of these monsters, they're just named like that because they're the first one that the guild spotted. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the origin race of that monster. So for all we know, actually, there might be more details about this specific example. Like I was going to say Azure Rathalos, but like, let's say for instance, Ebony Doggo, because that's another one who's also a guardian. For all we know, Ebony Odogaron could have been the original strain and it would have been called Odogaron. And then if they saw the red version later, it could have been called Crimson Odogaron. Because the guild labels things in the order that it sees them. They don't actually know which one of those came first, which one of them is a subspecies, which one of them is a variant, whatever. It's just like, it's by the order that they encounter them. At least, by the way, lore buffs, feel free to correct me on this, but this is the idea that I have when it comes to how the guild classifies monsters. So this opens up a series of questions where could Ebony Doggo be the original and then the Crimson be a variant or whatever? And all of this was generated by this ancient civilization, which the guild doesn't want anybody snooping around because they'll find out all the shady crap that the guild was up to. And that's why I like it. I like that concept. I like the idea that something really terrible happened 1,000 years ago or whatever it was, and the guild knows all about it, but they kind of like abandon the location and all of the experimentation that happened in that location. They're just like, okay, we're just going to leave that past behind us. We're going to start fresh, and nobody needs to know about what happened back there. And they just abandon everybody that was left behind to their own device. And they're like, that's not our problem anymore. We moved on. Too bad. So sad. But that's why I personally like it. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I do want to point something out because you do a lot of the same things that I do. I think we actually like the story for similar reasons in Monster Hunter, because none of that stuff is like told to you directly. So and like you said, all that could not be the case. But what I think it falls very much in line with what I was saying in my video, in that the actual told to you story, I just think kind of sucks for almost every Monster Hunter that I've played. Like just the actual narrative that they're telling to you directly kind of sucks. And so there's a lot to enjoy about Monster Hunter's story, quote unquote story, but you have to do your own thing with it. Like I get a lot of my stories. I had a similar thing to you when it came to Monster Hunter World, where I was Pepe Silva-ing the stuff with Safi Jiva. I thought that it was possible. Like if you look at the map in Monster Hunter World, like the world map, it looks like a crystal just smashed into the Elder's Recess. It looks like something fell into it and made all those crystals. So I thought Safi Jiva was actually Xeno Jiva was actually an alien. And so it's an alien that crashed down into this ecosystem and started absorbing the life and making all these crystals and stuff. And it wasn't originally, and this is kind of confirmed, but that it fell into this ecosystem, disrupted the Elder Dragon life cycle that is normal. And the reason Safi Jiva doesn't look like Xeno Jiva is because you are what you eat, and it absorbed Elder Dragon energy. And so it's going to look like a normal, like the most generic normal dragon. That's why he looks like that. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's still true. I don't know if that's if I still believe that. But it was a cool theory that I had from that. I'm not sure if there's any evidence that would support that other than like broad speculation. Doesn't matter. I enjoy the story through things like that. That's why I like Elden Ring and Dark Souls, because you can extrapolate the story based on visual cues and a bunch of other stuff. But nobody's out here like saying that the cutscenes are good. Like nobody's out here with Monster Hunter World and being like, man, I fucking love unskippable cutscenes. I absolutely love the Wyverian Hunter ominously looking while saying nothing of note. It's just, I don't think Monster Hunter stories are good, even for you. And I know that for you has its differences. Actual narrative value of Monster Hunter games, I don't think is very high. It's what you draw from them. And you draw a lot from them because they have a really excellent premise and really beautiful worlds. But the actual things that they're telling to you directly through their character dialogue, through their cutscene interactions, are the worst. And Wilds had the worst of it because they would not shut up about in those. I dreaded doing quests. I dreaded doing story quests because I knew I was going to have a 5-minute unskippable cutscene that pretended like it wasn't a 5 minutes unskippable cutscene every time we had to go find the monster. And they removed my tracking for that. On that, that's what they decided to remove tracking for. That when they had the little interviews were like, "Yo, yeah, you tracked the monster one time." They didn't know that they meant they were going to put me choo-choo on the fucking rails and like drag me to the monster every time. When I got to high rank and I was free, I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God, I can actually move my character around. I felt like I had, I was like those, what are those experiments where like you shock the thing and then it just stops moving because you keep shocking it? I don't think it's a real experiment, but it's a thought experiment. It's like finally they got me off of the thing. I'm expecting the electricity any moment.
So it's like when it comes to that stuff, so you remember how a while back I told you that you should play Final Fantasy 14?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never mind that.
Oh.
You're not gonna have a good time. You're just not gonna, like if this stuff bothers you that much, yeah, you're not gonna have a good time. Like I look at it as, I don't know how many JRPGs you tend to play, like actual JRPGs.
A lot.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
And this doesn't bother you in other games?
I don't mind cutscenes.
There's like a million other games that do the exact thing that you're saying, where the characters, they're all quirky and stuff, and they say absolutely nothing. I think that Wilds is not even remotely as bad as some other JRPGs out there.
But they're interfering with the okay. So like take for example.
So you're going to these other games for other reasons, and therefore it doesn't bother you as much.
Yeah. So the story is being interfered with by those cutscenes in World and Wilds. Because that's not what I'm in here for Monster Hunter's story. Because like I said, I appreciate the story in a very weird and specific way, and I'm not sure I'm alone. I think a lot of people, like everybody says, who imagine playing Monster Hunter for the story. People say that all the time. It's like a very common phrase in this community. So I don't think I'm alone in thinking that these stories are kind of mid. But in like JRPGs, I'm there for the cutscenes. I'm going there for the character interactions and the cutscenes and stuff like that. In Monster Hunter, they're bad. It's not just that there's a lot of them. They're bad, and I
don't agree.
You don't agree?
No, I don't think that the cutscenes are bad. I don't think that they're like the pinnacle of storytelling by any stretch. But I think that, for instance, they're at least better than World and Iceborne.
The cutscenes maybe are in Wilds. They're better than World in
yes.
So Nada's whole thing with Arkveld. You didn't think that was
okay? It's like Nada's whole thing with Arkveld is like what, 3 cutscenes?
Yeah, I guess
it's 3 cutscenes in the middle of, I don't know, friggin' 20 or whatever. And the thing is, I think that, by the way, on the topic of the Nada thing, the amount of people that I see hating on Nada, here's the conclusion that I've reached. There's a lot of people out there that just don't like children. You guys just don't like children. Like, I'm sorry, don't have kids. Because let me tell you, kids are annoying.
Yeah, but that's not me. I like children. I like children a lot. I just don't like Nada.
I don't know. I don't know if you do. if you're gonna be mean to Nada, I don't know if you like children. Like, look, children do unreasonable and they say dumb things all the time. This is to be expected of children. And Nada is not only a child, he is a child who has PTSD from seeing his whole village get wrecked by a crazy maniac monster they've never seen before. So it's like, this is going to be a messed up child. He's not even like a regular kid. He's a kid who's scarred for life. I'm surprised he's as well adjusted as he is.
Okay.
He's actually running chores for you.
Let me explain my problem.
He's like, oh yeah, I'll go to all the villages and I'll collect all the materials for you. Don't even worry about it.
I started to like him a little more after that. That was great. When we got to high rank and he made himself useful and stopped complaining and telling me about Arc Guild, it was great. I was like, oh, you're going to get all this stuff for me? This is wonderful. I'm starting to get a better impression of you, Nada. but let me... No,
but it's like, I get it. He's annoying. Yes, I agree. He is annoying.
It's not even that he's annoying. Look, I have a problem with how the story is set up. So let me tell you how I understand the story. It's not. This is not going to be comprehensive. I have more thoughts on the story, but just a very minor snippet of what I think. So the story with Nada is like he's part of this civilization of keepers, and they eat milk. They eat the special wyvern milk, and they artificially grow.
They don't eat the milk.
They artificially grow food with the milk, and then they eat the food. So they artificially grow food down there. There's no real good lights down there. It's all very artificial.
How do you know they use Wilk to make the food? Is this explained in the game?
I'm pretty sure that someone said it. Like I walk around and I talk to NPCs. I'm almost certain that they use Wilk to make food. That's why it's white. That's why it's white.
They used it as a fuel source.
No, I'm pretty sure they eat for the food that they use Wilk to make, and that's why all their food is white and nobody else's food is white.
That's disgusting. That they shouldn't do that. No, that's nasty. I never liked their vegan dishes over there to begin with. So, the hell is this vegan friendly menu? I need my meat, bro. Like I can go hunt you guys at Doshagome and we can eat that.
They'll eat some artificial meat. They'll grow you in a lab with the Wilk. So they eat artificial food. They live in an artificial place. They are surrounded by artificial creatures that can't breed and don't eat and don't die. And there's just no life in any of it. So it's stilted and stagnant and lifeless. And they're the descendants of an ancient civilization. And they're like mourning its passing. They're the keepers. They keep the lore of it. And there's probably like tons of books that didn't they say they don't understand it anymore in one cutscene, something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
So they're a stagnant, dying civilization. Nada.
You're the one.
Has never seen life. He's never seen anything else. And so when he finally leaves, this is an excuse for him to see other things. He has Alma as a mother figure. He sees life in all the different zones and how beautiful it is and how changing. And then he comes back to the place and he's talking to the guy, and the guy's explaining what guardians are and how lifeless and choiceless they are. And Nada realizes that this is fucked up. This is fucked up, that they're living weird, stagnant lives. And he's like, I don't know which one of us is worse. Arfeld's just trying to make a choice for the first time ever. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I get it. I do. I get what you are going for in the story, I think. It doesn't land for me. It's just that simple. It's not that I think that the themes are bad. I don't even have a problem necessarily with the Eagle Dragon weapon as a concept. I think the Eagle Dragon weapon is a cool concept. It's the hubris of mankind and their technological advancement coming back and being the cause of their undoing. I have no problem with that theme. I have no problem with it.
We're working on that theme right now in real life.
Yeah. And we know we're working on it. We're still doing it.
Yeah, that's the best part. We know we're working on something that's destroying us, but we're still like, you know what? Imagine all the memes this is going to make, though.
It's going to be so funny before the end.
Oh my God, left all the way to our graves.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And so I totally understand the story. I just don't think it was done well. I don't think the Eagle Dragon weapon was done well. I don't think it was done due respect for being in low rank and being easy and being fightable. So without any fanfare, without any pizzazz, at least Fatalis had more presence in this thing. I don't like that it just didn't land for me. It's that simple. But I do think I get what you're going for in the story.
So let me just see if I get this right. The thing that bothered you the most is the storytelling itself, not the plot, the storytelling and the gameplay. You didn't get to see the gameplay implications of the story.
Yes, like remember with the tracking specifically, because I like to immerse myself in the world of Monster Hunter, they kind of took that away from me with this tracking system. They're like, all right, this is your first time seeing a new environment. Instead of letting you just be and go hunt a monster or track a monster tracks or do optional quests, we're going to put you on this little curated cutscene where you're wandering around and, you know, collecting things with your little net, and then the NPCs yap at me, and they rob me of that of the mechanism that I usually use to enjoy Monster Hunter stories. They took it from me. And that's why Wilds bothers me more than Worlds, because World only had...
I understand.
It only had unskippable cutscenes. But then past that, you were just basically go do optional quests, but go be free. But then in Wilds, there's dialogue... There's the cutscenes, which you can skip, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to skip the cutscenes. And then there's the dialogue, Witcher-styled dialogue conversations where... they yap at me for long periods of time, and those conversations are kind of weird and stilted. Like they linger a little too long. They're poorly, you know how they'll stop talking.
It's funny because jeez,
yeah, no, they'll stop talking is what I'm saying.
I thought you were talking to me.
No, I was saying that the NPCs will stop.
I was like, stop talking.
No,
stop interrupting me. No. God damn it! It's like, holy shit.
No, I was just saying the NPCs stop talking really suddenly, and then the other one will take a minute before it starts talking, and that it just kind of weirded me out.
It was funny because I saw a bunch of reviews, and I think only one or two other reviews mentioned that, because that was one of the things that I brought up like right at the beginning when I was talking about visuals, and when I got to the cinematics, I was like, I think the cinematics are amazing, except for the dialogue ones, because there's some really strange, awkward pauses. The thing is, those can be fixed, right? You can probably change, let's kick in this dialogue a little bit faster, and they can fix that. But it was definitely something that I noticed, and it did take me out of it. So what I started doing was I would skip the dialogue after they were done talking. So they would talk, and I would press the button, and then it flows much more naturally, and it would actually be good. But it's like, again, I'm going out of my way to make the game more fun and to make things more appealing. And if you do it like that, that dialogue felt fine for me. And it gave you interesting things to get, even though there is one thing that I will never forgive. I'll never forgive this. This was a terrible transgression of the worst variety, okay? It is that one dialogue where Gemma tells you, oh, Werner, you're the guy who developed Wyvern Fire technology. And I was like, wait, what? The Wyvern Fire, tell me about the Wyvern Fire. And dude just goes like, yeah, I forgot about it. I was like, you forgot about it? Maybe if I use it on you, it'll freshen your memory. Oh my God, dude.
Your
I was
magnum
so mad.
opus. That's your greatest work, and you forgot about it.
What do you mean? Wyvern Fire? How can you forget Wyvern Fire technology, bro? That's so dirty. They did me so dirty with that one.
Oh, that's great.
But no, it's like, I understand where you're coming from. You want freedom of exploration. And the worst part is that if you're playing Xenoblade Chronicles X right now, it is the exact opposite of that, where they're just like, oh yeah, you're at the beginning of the game. Oh, you want to go over there where the level 80 monster is? Go right ahead. You do whatever the hell you want, bro. We're not going to stop you.
Not only like that, they give me optional quests. Like, there's so many optional quests to do, and there's like tiers of different. Like, there's the quest for people, and then there's the basic optional quests, and they send me close to that 80 level 80 monster in these stupid quests. Yeah, it's like, hey, level 3, you can handle it, and I'm not supposed to fight it, but I'm close to it. I'm always like too close to a lot of these things I know I'm not going to be able to beat.
and then you're going to die.
Yeah. Oh, and so when I was in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I realized that they have monster appendages, and you can break them, and if you break them, you get extra materials. I was like, oh, so this is what I wanted to play. This is the Monster Hunter that I wanted to play.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like what I realized on those on rail scenes. It's like, it doesn't bother you the first time going through it. Didn't even bother me the second time, to be honest, because I was doing it on stream. If I wasn't doing it on stream, though, probably would have been a little bit bothersome, because when you're on stream, you're putting on a show for everybody to enjoy and whatever. And I want people to see the cutscenes and all of that stuff. But like, I understand that for a lot of players, they want to jump in and hunt. And nothing good ever comes from forcing people to do things that they don't want to do in video games. So my feedback when it came to that stuff, and I've talked about this in multiple streams, probably most people also don't know what my opinion is on that, is like, listen, I think that for a first playthrough, it shouldn't really bother anyone, but it doesn't matter whether or not it bothers them. It's like, it's optional. You don't lose anything from a gameplay standpoint if you skip those on-rail sections. So there's no reason not to just let people skip them. I understand that for the developers, they're looking at it and they're like, oh, but I worked on this thing so hard. It's like, yeah, guess what? I worked a lot on my guides, but I still give people chapters if they don't want to listen to the basic part of the guide and they want to skip ahead. I let them do it. And it's like, it just needs to be the same thing with a lot of video games, because if you're going to force people to watch the story, you're going to lose some people. It's just that simple. So just let them skip those things as well. The same way that you skip through, you can skip the cutscenes, let them skip the on-rail sections. It's literally that simple. Just have like an option there. Boom. Do you want to skip? You can even give them warning like, hey, you might miss out on some important story details. And then they're like, yep. And then boom, done. And then it's like all of a sudden they skip something and they're like in a fighting a crazy monster or whatever, and then they're going to be upset. Well, that's too bad. You're the one who pressed the skip, but the option should still be there. That's the way that I look at it. They should just give the option to people that want to do it. And in my first playthrough, I would never skip it because I'm going to see it. I'm going to watch it. And it didn't bother me too much. I noticed that in your playthrough, what happened was you were missing the off-ramps, because there's off-ramps. And the same thing happened to Gaijin Hunter, which it's like, when you get this happening to so many people, it's no longer a player problem. It is a problem of the game not being clear of where those off-ramps are. Because there's multiple off-ramps in between those on-rail sections where you can like, oh, I want to stop now. I want to go do some optional quests. I want to explore the map. I want to go do... You can do that. It's just, it's not made clear to the player where those off-ramps are. The only reason I ran into them is because I was trying to do it all the time. So I realized, oh, I can actually go out and do stuff now. And like, for instance, before Uthduna, this was something that Gaijin told me. It's like, I can't even do anything before Uthduna. And I was like, no, there's definitely a moment where you can stop before Uthduna and you can just go free hunt. Because I did that in the preview version, and I did that in the live version as well, to go hunt for things that I wanted to craft. Like I hunted, I don't know, probably 30 Balaharas to craft the Balahara set. Because even though everybody's saying like, oh, I hunt the monster once and I get all the materials, and I'm like, not fucking me. I had to hunt that bastard like 20 friggin' times to get the 3 pieces of armor and his gunlance, which is the only things that I wanted. I wanted 3 pieces of armor and his gunlance. And that took 20 to 30 hunts of him. So it's like, I definitely had breakpoints where I was like, oh, I want to go hunt the Chemetries. Oh, I want to go hunt the Balahara before I even got to Uthduna. So the off-ramps are there, but they're not marked.
Can you hunt those monsters early and be able to craft all their equipment? Don't you need tickets, and you don't get those from them?
You need tickets for some pieces. I don't think you need tickets for all the pieces. So you can craft some of those before you get to them in the story, but you can get to Balahara before Uthduna, I think. I'm pretty sure Balahara is before Uthduna. Yeah, because Doshagam was before Uthduna as well. But yeah, and the thing is, you can even hunt them, but you can't generate the quest. So like if you try hunting a Balahara before the story, they'll just say, oh, we're not authorized to hunt that monster. But they're not really going to penalize you, which I thought was interesting. It's like, well, I'm not authorized. Guess I'm poaching. And I killed it and I carved it and they didn't do a damn thing about it. See, I was like, I was even saying while I was doing it, I would really respect it if they penalized me, like take Zenny away from me, take guild points, do something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like have a penalty for me doing this because I am poaching. And the penalty for that, as far as I'm aware, is death.
Yeah.
So have something, some kind of a penalty for me poaching a monster. You can come up with the excuse of, well, you did it in the Forbidden Lands, so it doesn't have as much of an effect on the ecosystem. So we'll just like give you a fine or something. But I feel like I should have been punished for what I did. And I didn't do it just once. I did it a bunch of times. A bunch of times I just hunted monsters that I wasn't allowed to hunt.
I've noticed since I collect all the Doomers in my chat, I've noticed a lot of people hate that Alma has to canonically tell you that you can hunt it so that you can hunt it.
See, I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I like ever since the first time I heard that, which I think it was the first trailer. No, what trailer was it? I think it wasn't the teaser one at the Game Awards. It was the other one where this is where you first hear the line, by order of the guild, you're authorized to hunt. I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. So I personally, I love that. Because that's the whole thing. That's what gives you the immersion.
Yeah,
you're not just a random hobo that is killing things. That makes no sense. You're an authorized hunter of the guild. And in this specific case, you're not even just a random hunter. You're a specialist hunter. I don't think they call you an ace hunter, but they call you like you're the one. You're the guy. You're that guy. You're a special hunter. You're an elite hunter. So therefore, you're not just running around randomly murdering monsters in this game, even though from a gameplay standpoint, yes, that is what we're doing. But from a story standpoint, no, it's like Alma's got to give you the go-ahead before you hunt. And I thought it was actually really cool because that's another detail of story that I really like. It lets you know just how much power the handlers wield. Because it's not like she's got a radio to the guild and she's going like, hey guys, can we hunt this one? She's making that decision.
Yeah, she's not just a secretary.
The authority of the handler. Yeah, exactly. It's insane. And then you consider that the handler in Monster Hunter World has that same level of authority. And the other guy, what's his name? Eric, he has that same level of authority. The guy that constantly wanders around, gets lost, almost gets murdered by Lalabarina. That guy has the authority to murder monsters. Hell, he gives you that authority when you're down there with Olivia in the Wyverian ruins, and just goes like, by order of the guild, in order to secure blah, 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 you have to hunt this Fulguranganath and what was the other one? I think it was a tempered Lalabarina or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, that is really cool. And that is a lot of world building that really shows you how important handlers are.
And I don't get the criticism because it's always been that way, that the guild is what authorizes you to hunt. You always need guild authorization. I think some people have said that like they just assumed the hunter would be the one making that judgment call, and they don't like they don't like having to answer to the handler. But no, I think this is good. This is actually plus, Alma's hot, and she can tell me to do whatever she wants, and I'll do it.
Team Alma or Team Gemma?
I am very Team Alma. In fact, I don't really like Gemma very much. I think Gemma's a little just her face is a little weird. Her face is a little odd. Like if you stare at it long enough, she starts looking like a frog. It's odd.
Whoa!
And I think the only reason people don't notice it is because they're busy staring at her other very fine features.
No, I started being a big Gemma simp, but no, Alma really grew on me. And a big part of it is that, just like the whole her handling all of the logistics and stuff for the guild, and she gets the authority to decide what happens, what doesn't happen. I think that's cool. And it also adds a degree of magnitude when you say, by my own order, I will slay Xochitl. Because it's not even like, I don't even care what the guild has to say. I do what I want. Mm-hmm. It's like a very rebel moment. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, no, the whole thing about her telling me, oh, you're allowed to hunt this monster, I thought it was way more immersive than any other Monster Hunter has been.
Yeah, I like that little element of it. Plus, I think I agree with you. I would have rather, maybe it's not the rails that bother me so much, because I like that rail. I like not being able, her being like, you can't hunt that monster, and not giving you tickets for it, not being able to do a quest because she said no. So maybe it's not the rails specifically. Maybe got to think about it more.
Yeah, it's like the thing to me is, there should be ways in which you could initiate an investigation into a monster, and then you could kind of like come up with a reason why you need to kill it. They could figure out a reason why you need to kill that monster. But it wouldn't just be running into the monster and then start hunting it and that's it. It would be like, oh, we run into this monster, and there would actually be some type of a system where you actually scout it out with your binoculars, and you're like, oh, this monster, okay, let's report this back to the guild, and then there maybe would be a reason why you'd have to hunt it for study or whatever, and they could come up with a reason for it. The problem with that would be too inconvenient. So instead, what they do is just like, yeah, just do the story. You'll get there eventually. Don't worry about it. Here's an interesting thing, and this is as we were having this conversation just now, I was thinking, what we should have in Monster Hunter that a lot of people are going to disagree with because the majority of people just want convenience, convenience, convenience. What we should have in Monster Hunter is more sandbox elements, even more. Increase the complexity, even more. 100%. Yeah, make the game more complex. It's not going to make it any more popular, but I think it would be way cooler if you actually had systems that you engage with that allow you to tackle monsters ahead of time because you've, fulfilled certain tasks or done certain things where you can advance through the game at different paces. You still have the story mode for the people that just want to, I just want to railroad myself into the game, do the thing, see the credits, leave. But you would have more advanced modes for people that actually want to engage with the sandbox and simulation elements of it. But the thing is, a player like me, right? Sandbox is something that I personally like a lot. This is why I spent 400, 500 hours in Elite Dangerous. And unfortunately, those are things that a lot of people just don't care about. It's not going to make the game any more popular, but I think it would be cooler. Like a lot of the things that you were describing, for instance, the food ingredients, unlocking different upgrades and unlocking things through optional quests. What are those? They're just sandbox elements. It's just they have a neat little quest bow tying everything around. It would be cooler if those could be generated by oh, I use my binoculars and I spot this monster and there's something different about it. And that generates a quest that you can go and you can turn it in. Then the guild tells you, oh, you got to do this other thing. You got to go collect this specific material because it seems like the monster forges this material. Then we analyze it and we find saliva of the monster. I want more of that than just yep, go out, kill monster, make funny hat.
I think I agree that we definitely need more sandbox elements, but when it comes to complexity specifically, the game's kind of complicated as it is. In fact, going back to 3U, there's more preparation aspect to it than we have in modern titles, but it's in terms of combat and systems like that, it's really not that complicated. It's kind of basic combat, probably from the limitations of the hardware, but everything's kind of simple. Things are hard for different reasons than why they're hard now. Monsters are hard in different ways, and nowadays, every weapon has tons of gimmicks, and I'm not complaining about it exactly. I'm just saying that it's hard. People go to your weapon guides for a reason. That's because the game can't communicate the information that they need. It's not possible. I think they've just given up. I think Capcom has just given up. There's no way to communicate how complicated the weapons are and every little move that you can do and how everything combos into something else and what you should be going for based on this weapon and this weapon and this weapon. They just quit. They've just quit. No tutorial could fix this.
But now I pose the question, is this a bad thing?
Not necessarily. But it's a bad thing that they can't communicate the information to you properly.
You want to know what the bad thing is, in my opinion? And this is one of the things that gets me in trouble with a lot of people. The biggest problem is that in Wilds, they don't give you a reason to learn.
Ooh, okay.
So let me give you an example, right? Usually ahead of my live streams, I like to check to see if there's news or if there's anything relevant happening, and maybe, do a react to some news or some video or some stuff ahead of the live stream to kind of like have a chat with people and whatnot, right? And in one of the beginnings of my stream, somebody was telling me like this big streamer, iShowSpeed, had played through the game and he had beaten the game. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's see what that was like. So I go up to his stream, I pull up his stream, and I watch the first hunt so that you get an idea of where this person is at. And he had no idea what he was doing. He was running around with the great sword trying to slap Chatacabra, whiffing and stuff. And I was like, this is cool. This was us. Like on whatever was your first Monster Hunter, this was you. It was literally like this. Like people will deny it, but it was us. When we first start playing, yeah, you're flailing your weapon around like a madman, have no fucking idea what you're doing. Exactly. But then I fast forward because I was like, okay, let's see how he's doing a little bit further ahead. Okay, so now he's fighting Ray Dow with dual blades, which is what I would expect because, his name is iShowSpeed. So it's like, well, what do you expect? He's going to go dual blades. And he has no idea about demon mode. He kills Ray Dow with dual blades without ever resorting to demon mode. That's when I learned that if you do the focus strike of the dual blades, that gives you gauge. Because I was like, how's he getting gauge if he doesn't have demon mode? And then I noticed that in one of his focus strikes, like, oh, the focus strike gives you gauge. Interesting. So that was the only way that he would ever reach like archdemon mode, was because he would be getting gauge through the thing. And it's like, okay, I feel like you shouldn't be able to beat Ray Dow in a reasonable time if you don't know the most basic mechanic of your weapon. I feel like, okay, you can beat him. It's going to take you 40 minutes minimum, because then you will realize, oh, there's something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. Clearly, this is not supposed to last 40 minutes. This makes no sense. But he beat it. I forget if it was like 11 minutes or whatever. So like, imagine beating Ray. Again, I don't know if it was 11 minutes. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It might have been 16. I don't remember how long it was. But it's like, imagine what it's like when you're a complete newcomer, no idea what you're doing, and you beat the apex predator of the region in a pretty reasonable amount of time without understanding the basic fundamentals of your weapon. I would argue that there's something wrong with the game at that point.
I totally agree, because this reminds me of what got me into Monster Hunter in the first place. And what got me into Monster Hunter in the first place was the world beta. So I played the first world beta because my friend was trying to get me into the game, and I killed the Anjanath with several different weapons, and I didn't know how to use any of the weapons, but I still killed it. And I wasn't interested. It's like, okay, like I could still kill it. Like, what are you bothering me about this? There's nothing special here. And I couldn't tell that there was anything special because it wasn't hard enough to show me that there was something special.
Exactly.
And then the second beta pops up, and it's the beta Nergigante. And beta Nergigante is way harder than the game Nergigante. Like, it was crazy. So this thing just beats me up, just beats me silly, beats me by myself, beats me in groups, beats me with dual blades, beats me with all the weapons that I was trying. Charge blade, longsword, didn't matter. And just because I didn't understand how to use the weapons, didn't get it. So finally decided to stick to longsword. I stick to something, and I'm learning how the weapon works.
Why'd it have to be the longsword?
Because I don't know.
Goddamn, oh my god!
I like katanas. Can a man like katanas?
Goddamn weeb.
So I make the effort. I'm trying to kill it. It's like a 30-minute timer or something. It's crazy. I'm doing it in groups. Everybody dies to his dive bomb. Everybody's dying all the time. Decided I'm just going to focus on it solo because I want to beat it before the beta ends. So I keep going for it, and now I'm learning the systems. Now I understand how things work. I understand sharpness. I understand how the counters are supposed to be and how to angle them properly. I understand how the spirit levels work for the longsword. I get how to move the Helmbreaker finally in the direction that I want to go, and how to make the slash go where I want it to be. I learn how the weapon works. I learned that it's not just like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, because it's not just learning the monster timings and then whacking at it with just your R1 button. No, you actually have to know how your weapon works and make use of it well. And with such a small timer, such a difficult monster, you have to do it really efficiently. It's a damage check for that beta. It's a positioning check. It's a knowledge check. It's testing all of your you have to understand how the game works, or you're not going to beat Nergigante in 30 minutes. And when I finally cleared it, I was like, I love this game. I love this game. I'm never going to stop playing this game. And it's thanks to the fact that it made me understand it. It forced me to respect it. It didn't respect my time. It made me respect its time.
Yeah, but that's something that I think a lot of people are never going to understand. And it just makes me a little bit sad because, you know, there's always that argument of like, oh, let's have the easy mode in the game. And to be honest, I'm getting to a point where it's like, yeah, sure, just add the easy mode. Yeah, because at least then I can have like a normal mode that is not the easy one. Because, you know, but the problem is they always end up messing up the balance. But regardless of that, it's like the whole point that I'm making here is that IShowSpeed never really bothered learning the game. And for a lot of people, they think that's perfectly fine. Don't be a gatekeeper. Don't be evil and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, the difference here is those players that don't learn the game and that don't understand the intricacies of the game, those are not going to be long players of the game. They're going to be players that are going to be playing the game for however long the game is popular for, or they get whatever they need to get out of the game, and then they leave and they never come back. And you're like, well, that's fine. It's a video game. It's entertainment. You don't have to dedicate your life to it. Correct. But if you are able to captivate a player, like you were captivated by Nergigante because it was challenging for you, because it made you learn, that is a player that is going to stick around and is going to come back for title updates and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. To give an idea, I then went and I watched IShowSpeed's last hunt, which was Zoshia, and it was a complete shit show. He beat it by running around in Sacred with a light bowgun while the other 3 support hunters were wailing on it. And I was like, look, that's that's fine. That is perfectly fine. But I'm just saying, I don't think that should have been the intended experience. But again, people are going to call me gatekeeper, all of these things. I want as many people to play the game, but I want people to engage the game and engage its systems in a way that they're meant to be engaged. I want you to really enjoy it, to actually understand what is going on. And at the end of the day, necessity is the mother of invention. And the best way to get people to learn something is to basically go and tell them, listen, this monster is hitting you hard. It's hitting you maybe too hard. It might be time to upgrade your armor.
Yeah.
This hunt took you 40 minutes. Maybe your weapon's just not good enough. So you got to maybe upgrade your weapon. I feel like those are very efficient ways of communicating that are organic and that don't require a prompt on screen to tell you, hey, your armor is maybe a little bit too weak. Like, for instance, the Jindahad mechanic. I feel like that one should have been more intuitive rather than just have you, hey, here's a prompt. You got to bring down the rocks to block the thing. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. Because I didn't realize how it was. I thought the rocks were just supposed to be dropped on top of him to deal damage. Like, there could have been maybe a better way of learning that organically. I don't know. But I think that there are ways of learning things organically, or at least realizing that you're doing something wrong that will motivate you to fix that.
Like bouncing.
And those are the things.
Like bouncing off of a monster's
exactly.
hide. But like,
if you
start
out. Bouncing, you're gonna learn about sharpness.
You're gonna learn about
fast.
sharpness, yeah. But if you reduce the bouncing, then people don't realize anything about sharpness. It feels like sharpness isn't even a thing because like you just don't bounce on anything. There's very few monsters where you bounce.
We're just using the people's sharpness. I paid for this whole sharpness gauge. I'm using it. Damn it. That's the Gunlance motto. We use the whole sharpness gauge. I think our penalties only come in at like orange, so we're good.
Oh, wow. No, yeah, I agree with you. I agree. The thing about the gatekeeping thing again is that isn't a good thing for people to, now you have lots of other people to play with. Lots of people are liking the game that you like. But the whole point of me wanting to bring people to like the thing that I like, it's like when you get someone you want to show a show to, or you like this restaurant, you bring them over. You want them to appreciate what you like. If they're doing something else, then they're not okay. It's like you bring them to the restaurant and you're like, "This is the greatest steak I've ever had in my life. Please try this steak. I'm here. Let me buy it for you." Slap, slap. Waiter, your finest steak, and then they bring this steak, and then he gets in his backpack and brings a bunch of steak sauce, just slathers it all over the damn thing.
Oh God! Oh,
then it's not the same thing anymore. It's not the same thing anymore. He's not enjoying what I'm enjoying. He's enjoying what he's enjoying. I want him to appreciate what I like.
I'm going to gatekeep his steak sauce. Like, what the hell, bro? What is that? You get your steak sauce away from this precious steak. What is wrong with you? Look at it. It's like perfectly medium rare, and you're doing like a slabbering all that garbage in there. Stop. Salt and pepper is all you need.
All right. What haven't we talked about? I'm looking through my notes.
Commitment.
Commitment.
That's probably one of the most important points in your video.
Right. What did you think about that part of the video, and what's your opinion on it?
I 100% agree that we have lost a tremendous amount of commitment. Now, my weapon doesn't have the worst of it because my combo is so long. So therefore, I still have to like commit if I want to get the hits off. And focus mode, while I do use it to do like slight adjustments, usually I still have to like do... I still have to work with what the game gives me and use commitment in a certain way. But like a lot of weapons no longer have that sense of commitment. And the thing to me when it comes to that is that is going to impact difficulty in a bad way. So it's like, make no mistake, the game is going to get harder. I fully believe that. The game is going to get significantly harder, but it is going to get harder in a way that I personally am likely not going to find enjoyable. Because what I like about how hard Monster Hunter is because it used to be a dance. In a lot of ways, a lot of the most experienced players will actually say that it's almost a turn-based game. The monster does its attack, and then I do mine. And then the monster has his turn, and then it's my turn again. Sometimes the monster overcommits, and I get 2 turns. Other times, I overcommit, and the monster gets 2 turns. And that's kind of like the way that it used to be in some of the older games. And that was due to the commitment of your actions. You had to like commit to an animation, and that was just the way that the combat is. And with Rise, we stepped away from that commitment with the use of like, Silk Bind attacks and stuff like that.
Wirefall.
Way faster. Wirefall as well. And a lot of other things. Commitment just wasn't as big of a deal. And with Wild, it's even less, because of focus mode. Focus mode, which by the way is, and this is a criticism that I think I've made in my review as well, but I have like a whole video dedicated to this from the beta, which focus mode is not properly implemented into the game because not all weapons are treated equally by focus mode, which is incredibly weird to me. I do not understand it at all. So like, for instance, you go into Switch Axe, and with Switch Axe and a lot of moves, I can move the camera with the left stick. And then you go into my gun lance, and you can't. And I'm just like, why? And I know that people will say, well, because some moves have a directional input, and that influences the move that comes out. You're right. The moves that I'm talking about don't. So you're wrong. So this, just to put it out there, because a lot of people like correcting me in focus mode, and they don't understand. It's like, you don't understand. I've tested this thoroughly with like most of the weapons. I know exactly which ones are working, which ones are not. I had like a list and all of that stuff. And it's like, there are just a lot of things with focus mode that are not working properly. And I reported those, but it doesn't, Capcom's very much the same way that they did with the Insect Glaive. They're like, nope, we don't agree. We think it's like this, and therefore it's going to continue being like this. Like the Insect Glaive is by far the most egregiously bad design control scheme in Monster Hunter Wilds. Like it's just straight up bad. And the thing is, there's a lot of people that come out and they say, I can hit circle with a part of my thumb, and then I can hit triangle with the tip of my thumb. And I'm just like, okay, I can put the controller next to my nutsack and I can use that to press buttons too. That doesn't make it any better. Like, what do you mean? This is insane. And then there's people like, oh, we used to do claw back in the day. It's like, okay,
The claw was
Guess
bad.
what? People used to think the sun orbited around the earth. We figured out that wasn't the case. And, it's just like, listen, we've evolved. I don't think we should regress back to the claw. I don't think this is a good thing. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
I hate the claw.
So it's like, these are like arguments that to me don't make any sense. It's like, can you make do with its control scheme right now? Yeah, sure, you can. Hell, you can bandage it with using
back paddles.
What do we call it? The back paddle. You can bandage it with back paddles, but you cannot tell me that that's a proper control scheme. It's bad, and it's especially if you just compare it to using mouse and keyboard, which is infinitely superior with every weapon. There's never been a Monster Hunter game where playing mouse and keyboard was simply superior to playing with controller. And that is the case for every weapon. Like, there might be some weapons where it's less noticeable, but mouse and keyboard is the superior control scheme because you can do focus mode and you can turn the camera and you can press the buttons at the same time without having any issues. Whereas with the other one, on the controller, you're going to need like a third hand to be controlling the camera or pressing the buttons or doing something. With paddles, you can kind of get over it. But yeah, so between the focus mode and the
I think paddles should be standard in controls now. Like they're just running out of buttons for things to do. I think controllers should just come with paddles.
No, there was a way to fix this control scheme, which I had even mentioned it, and it was super easy. They just had to bind like 2 actions to R1, which would have been conditional, and that would have solved everything. It would have literally solved everything with like 2 additional prompts to the R1 button that wouldn't even interfere with literally anything that you're doing in the game. That would have fixed everything. Because I know that like if you're going to suggest a solution, it needs to be something super simple or it would never get implemented. But they're like, no, we feel that it is rewarding if you're able to pull this off. And I was like, well, shit. Okay. Shit. All right. It's like, I don't agree, but okay. I mean, it's up to you. And here's the thing. It's not even my main weapon. So I personally don't even have to deal with it, but all the insect glaive mains, they're the ones who are suffering. But in regards to the focus mode, they definitely need to improve the implementation. I don't think they will. I think that what's there is what's going to stay because I don't think there's been any changes.
Do you think that we'll ever get rid of the focus mode? Like, do you think it's just there safe forever?
In future games,
future
iterations,
future games, not even title update, just future game. Monster Hunter 7 focus mode going to stick around?
Unfortunately, it's
yeah. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, it's like we've reached the point where it's like we've been very negative in this podcast because I know that that's kind of like the focus. That's the point. I love the game.
Right.
I think the game is awesome in a lot of aspects. But at the same time, I also think that the game is stepping away from a lot of the things that I like about the game. One of the things that I like about it was deliberate combat. And in here, we're stepping closer and closer to Devil May Cry. And focus mode is another step in that direction. Because, like you've pointed out, there's no commitment, almost, for most of the weapons. Especially for the greatsword, which is super weird to say. I always told people, greatsword. Yeah, for greatsword. I always told people back in World that like, listen, this is going to be one of the hardest weapons to use because it's going to require you to know how to play the weapon, and at the same time know the patterns of every monster. Because if you don't know the patterns of the monster, you're kind of worthless. You're not going to be able to get any damage off because you're going to whiff all of your attacks. And some people have fun that way. That's fine, but I do still consider that greatsword require a tremendous amount of skill. That skill was somewhat reduced in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak because you want to get hit by the monster midway through your combo, which is strange. And then in Wilds, it's like now you can just turn around willy-nilly, do whatever. You can turn it midway through the swing. And I'm just like, okay, I mean, it would be fine if they do it for this one game and then we can go back to a slower game. But the thing is, because we just went from a portable title to
the next one's going to be
a home console, the next one
will be a portable
is going to be it will be even more arcadey than what we have right now, or at least it should be, following the pattern of what we had, which to me is just like crazy to even think about. Like if we keep going any faster, because it's like, a lot of people think that I have this thing where, oh, you just want the game to be hard. You want this to become like Dark Souls. Like, no, The opposite. I want this. The thing that I liked about this is way slower than Souls.
Way slower than Souls.
Way slower. It was nowhere close to the level of speed of what we have right now.
This is what I
like,
say
it's still fun
all the time.
I like it, but it's not this type of difficulty is not what I want. I don't want to go back to like Sunbreak where the anomaly monster is just so hopped up on crack that they're so fast.
They're fast. They one-shot. The AoEs. Yeah. That's how they try and put difficulty back in when you got so much stuff to deal with it.
And when you think about it, now that we have focus mode, that's the only way to make things harder, is to make them so fast that you're going to have a hard time tracking them, which is what happens with a lot of the monsters you fight, like Gormagala constantly jumps up behind you. The Guardian Rathalos, one of my favorite monsters. A lot of times he's so fast, I can't turn the camera fast enough to keep up with it, because it's just like flying all over the place, because that's the only thing that they have to counter us is speed. So I don't know how you fix this, because we have the speed and the complete camera control. So the only way to increase difficulty at this point is to amp up the tempo. And I actually wanted them to slow the tempo. So, yeah.
I've often said, I don't know how popular an opinion this is, but I think that Monster Hunter World is harder than basically any Souls game. Souls games are known for difficulty and their deliberate combat, but they're not that deliberate compared to something like Monster Hunter World. I was like, just even on a fast weapon like the longsword, just doing the overhead swing takes so long in comparison. It takes as much as like an ultra greatsword in Souls games. It's a huge commitment to do even a basic attack, comparatively. So I've always thought, I think it's harder. I think Monster Hunter has always been harder than Souls games. Just because there's more to keep track of.
I wouldn't say it's harder, but I understand where you're coming from.
What would you put above Fatalis in difficulty? Like, I know it's different. Okay. I know it's hard to compare. But
Fatalis is Iceborne.
Yeah.
It's not World. Unless you meant World Iceborne, that's a completely different conversation.
Well, World Iceborne. Just talking World Iceborne.
When you say World, I'm thinking base World, and I was like, But if you're including World Iceborne, it's like, okay, now it's a different conversation.
Okay, base World, Extreme Behemoth. What's harder than that? Because I think that's harder than Fatalis on release, at least.
I mean, but Extreme Behemoth is scaled for 4 players.
But even with 4, it makes it harder because you have to have you have to find 4 competent players.
The thing there is it's a different skill set. See, I didn't think that Extreme Behemoth was that hard.
What?
It was hard for the people that were playing with me because they didn't have an MMO background. But because I had an MMO background, he was not that hard. All I had to do was tell people, listen, you get Charybdis, run to the corners. I don't want to see any Charybdises in the middle of the map. I had a friend of mine change his main weapon because he was playing Aerial Glaive, and I was like, no, I don't want no fucking Aerial Glaive in these hunts. No, because the problem is, it's not about the damage. It's not even about, because Aerial Glaive can still deal enough damage to deal with it. The problem was you can't see Charybdis when you're flying around in the insect glaive, and so he would end up dropping Charybdis in the middle of the map. And I was like, no, change your weapon, play something else, or play in the ground. I don't know, figure it out. But I don't want to see a single Charybdis in the middle of the map. And that's it. That's the difficulty of that hunt, is that. There's nothing else to it. The rest of it, what? Hide behind a meteor? That's hard? Come on now. You can move the monster so that it's not getting in touch with the meteor. And then on top of it, when I played that, I basically played Sword and Shield healing. So people playing with me, they never had to heal. They didn't have to heal at all. I just healed them the whole fight. And so there's that. And then on top of it, I had full control of the monster because I was playing Sword and Shield. I could mount whenever I wanted. So I'm like, okay, are we ready? First mount coming. Boom. Done. We have the mount. And then I would mount him. So we had full control of the fight. So I don't think it's hard. It's just a different skill set. Now, Fatalis, that's a different conversation because Fatalis is not scaled for 4 players. So all you need is individual skill. And that is a much more twitch reflex, pattern recognition, knowing when you can like abuse, so on and so forth.
Okay, now let's go with Fatalis then.
What's harder than Fatalis in like a Souls game?
Yeah, maybe Promised Consort Radahn, maybe, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Some of the bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree would probably be harder. And Malenia is harder than Fatalis.
What?
Absolutely.
Great. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
That's
It is harder. Way harder.
No, come on. Malenia more than Fatalis. See, okay, but see, here's the thing with Promise Code. I may grant, but Fatalis is way better designed than Promise Consort Radahn. Fatalis it's a magnificently designed monster. It's extremely well balanced. It's perfectly tuned for the exact amount of time you need to really just barely beat it with some tension in it for the first time that you clear it.
If you use the right equipment, Promise Court Radahn is not that hard.
Yeah.
People get mad about that shit. It's not that hard.
There's nothing in Elden Ring that's that hard if you use the right equipment. But
true.
But in Monster Hunter, using the right equipment will still net you, like, you still have to know the fight. You still have to be skilled.
Oh, yeah,
you still need to be skilled to be able to beat Fatalis. It doesn't matter
what.
Trying
to say I'm not skilled? Well, what's going on here?
Wait, did you not beat Fatalis?
Of course I did.
Oh, okay, yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, in Promise Consort Radahn, you don't have to engage with a lot of his stuff. Fatalis is going to make you engage with all of his stuff. You need a level of proficiency that Promise Consort Radahn doesn't require, because it's, different game.
Yeah. No, it's like these are different skill sets, though, I feel like, because there's also the knowing about artillery in Monster Hunter, which is not something that you're doing in Souls games and stuff like that. So there's the artillery, and there's other options. There's a lot more things that you can do. So it's fundamentally a different system. But yeah, I agree. Those things would be on par if you're bringing up Iceborne difficulty. Yeah, sure.
Right. Well, I was just bringing up like hardest in Souls games and hardest in Soul. Okay. Let me ask you about the end game, because I don't know if you noticed, but in my video, most of my criticisms were levied at the distribution of difficulty and across the experience, and very little. Yeah. I didn't really talk about the end game at all. Let me ask you before we get into that. This is kind of an old topic, but what did you think about the anomaly grind in Sunbreak?
So the fact that I didn't finish it should tell you everything you need to know. I liked the idea of it, but I felt that it was too grindy even for me. And usually the interesting thing is, whenever I tell people that I think it is too grindy, what they tell me is like, I grinded it in 10 hours. And I was like, okay, what did you do? Well, I got online with 3 of my friends and we just butchered monsters for 10 hours straight. I was like, oh, okay.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's like butchering monsters, doing what is essentially like gathering quests for monsters I don't think is super entertaining. It's the same thing as like you have a bunch of people that got gold crowns, which is very rare. Usually not that many people get gold crowns. This time most people are actually hunting for gold crowns. I never hunt for gold crowns. I'm never going to hunt for gold crowns because I don't think it's fun. So I just don't do it. It's like I'm not going to do something that I don't think is particularly fun unless I'm forced to do it to get to something else that is more fun. But grinding crowns is just not fun. Now, in the case of the anomaly, I wanted to do it. And the reason I wanted to do anomaly grind is because I wanted to face off against the super hard level 300 monsters. But it's like, I don't want to be doing the same hunt that's not going to be challenging, because you would usually get those hunts that have like 4 monsters in them or however many, because there's like certain hunts that would have more monsters than normal. You would do those because the monsters have less health and you can kill them faster, and they also get like increased multipliers, and then it would also be the preferred hunt of the day or whatever. There's like a million different things that people would take into account when grinding these things, and I'm just like, man, I would sure just love to go fight
the level 300 ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I never got to it either because I couldn't finish the.
Yeah, and the other thing about that is the accompanying system that you already know my opinion on that, the curious crafting, which is the worst thing that I've ever seen in a Monster Hunter game by far. Like literally the worst thing. I'm not even exaggerating. People will be like, "Oh, it's not that bad." No, it's worse.
It's worse.
There's a reason there's a reason I would leave that to the end of my stream, because I knew by the time I was done doing curious crafting, the last thing I wanted to do was play the game. So I would never do it midway through the stream because I would just get demotivated to continue playing. Like it was so bad that would make me not want to play the game when I was done engaging with that system. So it's just I just have this extreme aversity to RNG because of the fact that I played so many MMORPGs that have like loads and loads of RNG associated with them. So yeah, the anomaly grinding, absolutely did not like. I mean, I liked aspects of it, like the beginning of the anomaly grind. That was a ton of fun. Fighting big, powerful monsters. Hell yeah, dude, let's go. But the rate at which you progress, let's put it like this. In the final update they did to anomaly grinding, you could get from 0 to, I think, was it 120? No, 220. You could get from 0 to 220 really fast. If that was the rate at which you leveled up from the beginning, that would have been cool. Problem is, by the time you get to level 220, they slow you down to the most obnoxious crawl. It will take you like 4 hunts of the highest tier of monster that is available to you. And these are monsters that will one-shot you regardless of your upgrades, regardless of whatever it is you're doing. And these are the type of monsters, by the way, that whenever people start telling me like, blocking is just so much easier. And I'm like, okay, go block Shigaru Magala at like level fuck whatever and tell me how much fun you have with that. I remember having a build that had literally 11 points into blocking. Okay, 11 armor points into blocking, and it was worthless to block anything that the big monsters did. So I'm just like, oh yeah. Tell me how much fun that is when you go block like Risen, Shigaru Magala, level fucking 200, whatever. Have fun with that. Tell me how it went. It's like, it's terrible, miserable. I hated it. So that's the thing. Like when you would get to 220 and your options then are like, okay, you got to go hunt Risen Teostras, Risen Shigarus, Risen Crimson Glow Volstraxes, and these are all monsters that is just like, it's a type of hunt that is not relaxing. You need to be on. You need to be locked in the whole hunt. One slight mistake, like blocking at the right time, you're dead. At the wrong time, sorry. Blocking at the wrong time, you're dead. It's over. And there's not even anything that you can do about it because the monster's going to chain a combo that is unavoidable until you die. So that wasn't a particularly fun system to engage in. Like I said, in the beginning, it was fun because I like popping the anomaly wounds and seeing the big damage numbers and all that. That's cool. But as it, you're expected to be doing it for a tremendous amount of time. I grew bored of it.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page when it came to that. So given that we're in the same page with that, how do you feel about the endgame in Wilds? The endgame in Wilds is more robust than the endgame in World. Because the endgame in World, to get like the best rewards, I think, because I didn't really do this. I would usually hunt a bunch of tier 2 monsters because it was fun. Mm-hmm.
But to get the best rewards, you had to hunt like in the beginning, the
Tempered
tier
Elders.
3 tempered, which was like just 3 or 4 monsters, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people burned themselves out doing that. And that was not what I was doing. So I did not burn out. I was just like running around hunting everything that I felt like. But the reality is there wasn't really that many objectives. The objectives was like, oh, you just found this cool investigation. This just looks like it'd be a cool investigation to do, and I'd go do it. Sometimes I'd get good decoration. Sometimes I wouldn't. In this one, you have the deco farming stuff. So you can get decorations, you can get materials, you can get a bunch of different things to optimize your set. I'm still not done grinding. It's just I stopped grinding because I'm doing the guides, and that requires me not to grind because I can only do one or the other. I can't do both at the same time. But the Ardean grind itself, I didn't have to engage with it because all the Ardean gun lances suck. So I don't have to worry about that. But I understand that a lot of people are frustrated with Ardean, but it's like, Ardean, isn't it? I don't know again, I don't usually look at the maths of it, but what I've heard, it's like, it's a 2 to 4% increase. Is that big of a deal if you don't have an Ardean weapon? Unless it's like a specific one that you need. And usually you can get like one, like let's say, I hear that the Blast Charge Blade's real good. You can just make that one and then focus on getting a better one of that. But in the case of the Charge Blade, you could probably also want to do the elemental ones because they're pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it sucks if you're trying to make all of them, but it's a chase. It's a chase item. You can go chase Ardean weapons. You can go chase decorations. You can go chase other weapons. I think it's okay. For a base game, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I don't think I mind it. But I got an Ardean weapon that was like, okay, this is good enough. I don't need to like grind for a perfect one. I don't even know what a perfect one would entail. I got one with 3 attack and 2 affinity. It's like, okay, That's fine. It's
I think
it's got lightning element, which goes with my Raiden cosplay, so we're good.
I think a perfect one is like 4 attack and 1 sharpness. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
I'm not sure, but that's I think what I hear. But again, I don't do the maths on this stuff. But people do say that you need at least 1 sharpness in there, because otherwise you're going to run out of sharpness too fast.
Yeah, I don't mind the end game really.
But it's like the thing that I would ask is like, how would you improve the end game? Because I do hear people complain sometimes, oh, I'm already done with the game. It's over. It's like, okay, well, what would you want for the end game? Would you want an anomaly ranking system that you're supposed to just like grind into infinity? Would you want curious crafting? The worst part is that I know a lot of people would say yes to the curious crafting. A lot of people would say yes, and that scares me.
I guess
Because if we go back into curious crafting, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm tuning out, and I'll see you guys in the next Monster Hunter. Or
I'll
something.
see you in the next one.
I don't think I'm ever gonna do curious crafting again. I disliked it that much. It was miserable. Like every time that I would go in there and gamble away like 50 hours of materials and get nothing, I was like, bro, this is crazy. And people keep telling me, oh, it's so easy to get this and that and the other. It's like, yeah, it must be nice. I didn't get those things. Guess what? That's the nature of RNG. Some people get them, some people don't. Like I made the mistake of saying that I thought getting the tier 3 artillery decoration was easy because I got one and I'm usually super unlucky, so it can't be that hard. And now I'm getting comments every Monster Hunter video of this one guy that goes in 180 hours. Guess what? Still don't have it. I was like, thanks for the update, buddy. But yeah, the RNG is there should be some level of RNG. And in this game, it doesn't have that much. So I'm kind of happy about it because you can get most of the decorations crafted and stuff, and it's not really a big deal. So the RNG is not atrocious, but I don't like it when we get too much RNG.
I think I would have preferred. So I like RNG, but I like limited RNG, and I think that Safi'jiiva weapons were perfect. How the Safi'jiiva weapon systems was perfect because it had RNG, but then once it got the thing you wanted, you could lock it in, and so you would slowly build a perfect weapon. You would eventually get the perfect weapon, and the every time you locked something in, the chances were better and better that you would get something that you liked. So the chances just kept going in your favor.
I would argue perfect is a strong word because for the Gunlance, I would be looking for a very specific thing. Like usually, if I'm not mistaken, it would be the Zorah Magdaros buff. And if it didn't get the Zorah Magdaros buff, it was literally worthless. It's like if it doesn't have this one buff, worthless, unusable weapon. So yeah. And,
but
in that situation, it was a little bit rough.
Couldn't you just couldn't you just keep rolling till you got it and then lock it in?
Guess what? You want to know how many times I rolled on one weapon and didn't get it?
How many?
200.
Okay, that's a little much. That's a little much.
That was the one time that I was like, you know what, guys? I think I'm saves coming this one. This was some bullshit. That was the one time that I saved. I'm sorry, 200 legit rolls and I don't get the goddamn skill I want? No, I don't think so. I don't think that one was fair. Yeah,
it was better. It's better than Kobe, though. I mean, I love Kobe. I love Kobe grinding. Yeah. I loved playing Kobe stuff.
No,
but
I hate Kobe.
You don't like Kobe. Is it the boss fight or the reward system? Yeah, the reward system I didn't think was very good because it's just completely random, awful.
Yeah,
hated it, didn't like it at all.
Like I always tell the story. That thing was up for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I'm not exaggerating. Every single free moment that I had, whether I was on stream or off stream, I was grinding that fight. That was probably the time of my life where I played light bowgun the most. Because that just let me AFK the fight. I just go in there, pa pa pa, pa pa pa, like straight up. I was straight up AFK, like watching movies and shit, and just like pa pa pa, pa pa pa. But in those 2 weeks, I got to a point where it's like, well, the event's about to end. This is the last run. Didn't get what I wanted, and in that last run, I finally got one of the level 4 shelling wide gun lances. 2 weeks of grinding nonstop. So I was like, I'm never doing this ever again. You are crazy. I'm never farming this monster like this ever again. And I didn't. I was like, no, I have my one level 4 wide shelling gun lance, and that's it. That's the end of it. Not grinding this anymore. It's crazy.
How do you
But
think they're
yeah,
going to
so,
do the Ardian stuff now that I'm thinking about it? Because like eventually in World, eventually those things kind of became obsolete because more things would get introduced and you would just use the new things that get introduced. Do you think that's so is Ardian going to remain like top dog, or like are the arch-tempered Raidal weapons going to be better right away, or whatever else they end up introducing?
I think that arch-tempered Raidal weapons are going to end up being better in a certain niche. I think Artian weapons are going to remain like your all-rounder go-tos for most weapons. And if they add additional customization to Artian weapons, I can see them becoming top dogs. So in Gunlance, they're always going to suck unless they give us the option to add slightly strong shelling, because slightly strong shelling is just too powerful of a buff. Unless they nerf Gunlances, and then the Ardian weapons can become better, which wouldn't surprise me because that's usually what they do with gun lances. They nerf them. But unless they do that, we will never have to do them. But other weapons, my prediction would be that they will remain comparable. Because like Safi Jiva weapons were still comparable to Raging Brachydios weapons, which was kind of like the next step up. And they remained that way for a long time. So I would expect Artian weapons to be significant until the end of the cycle. They'll probably just add additional upgrade levels for them or something, or buff them somehow. That would be my prediction for Artian weapons. But it is something that I don't like. I think that Artian weapons should be a side grade at the difference level that they are right now. I'm not sure if they make much of a difference because, again, if it's like 2 to 4% difference, it's not really a big deal because Safi Jiva weapons weren't a 2 to 4% difference. They were just way more powerful than anything that you could get on the monster tree. So it was like Safi Jiva weapons essentially made the monster tree obsolete. And people are making the claim that Ardian do the same thing. I'm not sure if that's the case yet. The numbers that I'm seeing, I don't think they are. But there should never be a situation where the monster tree is obsolete. I disagree with whatever system they implement that makes the monster hunter tree not be as important, the monster tree not as important as whatever system they put in.
I think I probably agree. But I'm a little biased because I really liked the Safi Jiva weapons. Holy shit, I loved the Safi Jiva weapons. They were so good. Their whole transformation gimmick and the armor transforms. It was so pretty. But no, see, I probably agree in principle.
I was always jealous of the lance shield because it was so much cooler than the gun lance shield. The gun lance shield was like this bat looking thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't want this. Give me the lance shield or the charge blade shield. Like, what the hell? But yeah, they were cool. Like I didn't mind the Safi grind, even though I had that, one or two situations where things got a little bit obscene. But the Safi grind didn't bother me nearly as much as the Kulf to Roth grind.
Okay, running out of topics, which is good. What about Lagiacrus? what are your Lagiacrus thoughts?
Oh, I'm super happy about Lagiacrus. I kind of feel like people have been trying to leak it to me through my comment section, but I usually, whenever I read anything that I start realizing it's a leak, I instantly just like, like cover my ears, except I cover my eyes. So I didn't necessarily know that it could be there. For a while, because of the language that developers were using in some interviews, I thought that Lagiacrus was never going to be a possibility, which made me sad because the first game that I ever played was Tri. And there's a really cool moment when you go into the water. I mean, you probably experienced this in 3U recently, where they get you on that mission where you're supposed to get something, and then suddenly Lagiacrus is there.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. Why don't they do that stuff anymore? They did that in GU as well, where it's like, oh yeah, we just need you to go pick up some mushrooms, and then Glavenus is there. It's like, those are really cool moments, and they don't do those. And so Lagiacrus is just like a really special monster. I've always loved Lagiacrus. So when I realized that Lagiacrus was a possibility was during the preview event because I saw Uthduna when I fought Uthduna and I saw him belly flopping all over the water, I was like, oh, this is how they can get him to do stuff in the water and then still fight outside. This makes perfect sense. So that's when I realized he's actually a genuine possibility. Oh, now that I realize it, in my stream earlier this morning, people were actually asking me, what are your predictions? And I threw out Lagi out of my ass.
You do got those connections. You got those Capcom connections after all.
That's the worst part. Now people are gonna think that like they told me or something. It's like, no, I didn't know. Oh, funny.
I think I like Lagai. I think he's my favorite monster in 3U so far. It's.
I mean, yeah, he's the
flagship.
Of
yeah. I hate underwater though. I cannot stand I cannot believe how many people are asking for underwater to come back. It's crazy. How no, see, here's what I think. I have a theory. I don't think people like underwater. I think people like seeing the monster move around underwater because it's super unsettling and you're not in your element and it's hard to move around. And so it feels underwatery. So I think people just like how things move underwater and how scary it is. They don't actually like hitting things. I hate hitting things underwater.
I think those people were lance mains because I hear that lance is really good in the water. So they're the ones that are probably all of the lance mains are the ones going like, yes, underwater, let's go.
Okay, I think that's all I've got. Unless you have something you wanted to talk about.
I have one more topic. What are your thoughts on multiplayer scaling?
Well, I didn't play very much multiplayer scaling, so I don't have much of an opinion.
No, I mean in general.
Oh, I think there should be several there should be several monsters that are like canonically so strong that their health doesn't scale and they're just set for 4-player HP. Like Behemoth, Ancient Lenshin, Safi'jiiva, and Kovataroth in base world. I want that out of like I don't necessarily think it needs to be every monster, but for title updates, like super strong things, there should be some that are just designed around multiplayer, not just single player.
I'm more extreme now. I have this terrible take that everybody grills me over. They hate me over this, but I think that scaling down to solo was a mistake.
Ooh, you think there should be the hub village distinction like the good old days, and the hub ones should all be multiplayer scaled?
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
I agree with you. I just didn't think it was proper to say. I just thought it was like the.
Think it was why is it not proper to say? It's like, see, this is the thing, because what I try whenever I'm streaming, whenever I'm having conversations with people, I'll try like, listen, you think one thing, I think something different, and I think that's fine. We don't have to agree. That's the way that I always look on things. So long as we're both respectful and we're not attacking each other, we don't have to agree. Right? Unless you're being unreasonable, because you know that sometimes people come up with the PlayStation 2 graphics and the PS. That I think is unreasonable, and that pisses me off sometimes. It's like, okay, you're just not living in reality at some point, right? But it's like if you have a reasonable opinion, like I like hearing people out and engaging in differences of opinion. And so it's like I've been thinking about this a lot. Like I've had 3 whole games to think about this because I'm gonna be real here, right? When I played Monster Hunter World for the first time, that was, in a way, that was when I really started playing Monster Hunter, because I played the older games, but I didn't play them that much because they were on the 3DS. I don't like playing in small screens when I'm home. Like I can play small screens if I'm out and about, at a doctor's office or traveling, whatever. Fine. If I'm home, I can't do it. I can't play on a small screen. There's a big screen in front of me. Okay. I'm nearsighted. I need the big screen. And so that's the reason why I didn't engage as much in the older games. But when I started playing World, I was able to play multiplayer with people and still have that be engaging, right? And then I played Iceborne and played multiplayer with people, and that was still engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we went back to GU because GU came out midway through World and Rise, and we went back and we played GU. And that was a blast to play in multiplayer. It was amazing. I would always bring my 2 friends along. It was Kegren and Wadangashis. They would come in. We'd go and we'd tackle everything. Ton of fun. We would still cart. We would still fail quests from time to time. And that's good. You should fail quests. Like this fear that people have of failure, like, oh my God, how does this reflect to me in real life that I wasn't able to, oh, I'm never going to achieve anything because I wasn't able to kill this monster. Oh my God, it's the end. It's like, listen, I do this for a living and I don't take shit that seriously, okay? If I card, I card. If I fail, I fail. I didn't know if I was going to be able to solo Fatalis. When Fatalis came out, I made a video where I said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat this monster solo. And that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to beat it solo. It's not the end of the world if you don't. But I thought it was cool that I was able to do all those things in multiplayer. Then Rise came out. And Rise was when I began feeling like, oh, multiplayer is just not as fun because we're just mauling these monsters. Sunbreak, kind of the same thing until you get to Anomaly. And then Anomaly is just like a little bit more convenient because you get the hunts done faster. And the interesting thing is even multiplayer Anomaly hunts aren't nearly as fast as solo hunts in Monster Hunter Wilds. And now we get to Wilds, and Wilds in multiplayer, like I told you, it is literally a gathering quest. It's a gathering quest. That's all it is. There's no challenge whatsoever involved. And I understand that for other people, there might be some challenge, whatever. But I just think that the scaling as it currently stands is not adequate for multiplayer. I don't know if that's to do with popping too many wounds, stun thresholds, ailment thresholds, but it's like, yeah, there's something wrong. There's just something wrong. And that's when I started thinking, I mean, I could go to GU right now. And if I get like 3 other people, we're not going to be mauling monsters the way that we're mauling here. And if I'm not mistaken, the scaling of GU is not even for 4 players. By default, stuff is just scaled for 2 players. It's just if you get more people, it gets easier. I think that's how the scaling works in that game. And even then, you're not going to be mauling, like if you go up against a Deviant, you're not mauling a Deviant like we're mauling monsters here. Even Tempered Gore Magala ain't standing a shot against like a Deviant. This is just not the case. And that's just the way that I look at it. It's like when you had to have your friends, things were more fun. Because hell, I usually didn't even want to play the game as much if my friends weren't around. Whereas now it's the other way around. If I'm with my friends, it's like, oh man, this is not even, it's not even going to pose a challenge. There's just like this whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you, because like there's also the added advantage of people aren't really helpful with the way the scaling works right now. But in things like the old games, every new person that adds it is not giving the monster any health. It's just a straight benefit. So you want people like, and if the thing was hard enough, you would want people more. It's like, God damn it, like Tempered Kushala Daora is like just beating me up. I'm getting absolutely destroyed, and he's got 3-4 player scaling, whatever the scaling would be. I want more people, and every new person that joins is just a net benefit, just helping you out. Whereas in World, I often felt I can kill it faster by myself. Like they're just giving it HP. I'm going to have to shave down. I don't need to play with other people, and that's just the attitude I've had since that.
Yeah, and that's a problem because the whole thing that popularized Monster Hunter was back in the Freedom Unite days, people playing together in like trains in Japan. That was the thing. People were hunting together in trains, doing ad hoc play. It wasn't even online. It was ad hoc, like people next to each other. And that was the same thing with 3DS. With the 3DS games, people were playing ad hoc in the commute to work. That's when people were hunting. They would do this thing where it's like, hey guys, we're clearing out all of the urgent quests, which we don't even have anymore. There's no urgent quests anymore. Those are gone. And you would have to do those multiple times so that you would get everybody their urgent quest. And there's a certain sense of community that is kind of gone from all of that stuff. Because I already know if I go into a multiplayer hunt, it's going to be a slaughter fest. So yeah, and again, this isn't something like a lot of people might think, oh, you're just saying this because it's popular to say that Wilds is too easy. I've been thinking about this since, I got pretty decent at playing Iceborne. That's when I started realizing it's like, oh, multiplayer is just like, we just maul shit. And there it wasn't even as bad as it is here.
I do also like single player content. I do. Okay. Now that I've You see, you lured me in there because it's like, oh, finally I get to talk about about it. But okay, now that I've come to my senses a little, I think we should have an extended amount of monsters that are multiplayer scaled, but not all of them only multiplayer scaled, because I do also appreciate playing alone. I like that system. I guess I could I guess I could hunt the multiplayer ones by myself, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What if the multiplayer ones, you can still hunt them. It just takes you 30 minutes.
Okay, you know what? You're right. Never mind. I'm with you.
It's like, because what happened to me, right, in G rank GU is I actually timed out quests that I was trying to do. I think one of the quests that I distinctly remember was I was on vacation, so I couldn't play multiplayer because I didn't have proper internet. And I was trying to do this quest that was like 2 Hyper Brachydios, and I timed it out at 50 minutes.
How long does it take you to multiplayer kill a monster when you're playing in Wilds?
I don't know, because we're not really try-harding, but it's pretty much sub 5 everything.
So
I don't think a monster ever lasts more than 5 minutes, usually faster. The thing is, nobody's actually trying meta. People are just like going in and throwing whatever attacks they feel like throwing. Nobody really cares.
So I think that fits though. Like assuming the monster has 4 times as much health and you're playing it by yourself, it's still like a 20-minute hunt. And first of all, it doesn't 4-player scaling in Wilds, I'm sure, is not 4 times as much health. I'm certain.
No.
Certain it's not. So it wouldn't even be that long. So you know what? I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I'll just fight him by myself if I want to for the thing, and then whenever I go into multiplayer, it's just straight benefit to have one other person.
To me, the ideal hunt length for a casual hunt has always been 20 minutes.
That's how long 3U hunts. It takes me a long time.
No, but it's like, to me, it's like for a casual hunt, the optimal time that hunt should last is 20 minutes. Because here's the other thing that happens now. Monsters die so fast. I don't even get the satisfaction of trying to break all the parts. I have to nerf my damage if I want to break things. Because I want to chop this tail because I find it satisfying to chop tails. Better stop shelling. You're not going to chop that tail if you shell. Promise you. I actually had somebody talk to me earlier in the stream today. They're like, bro, how do I chop tails with gunlance? And I was like, sorry to tell you, got to stop shelling. That's literally the only way. You'll kill the monster every time before you chop the tail if you don't stop shelling. Which is just like such a weird thing to say. It's like, oh, I want to cut this thing off. I should be able to deal lots of damage to it, right? No. You need to deal less damage lest you kill the monster before you actually break the thing. It's like, it's insane. I like the satisfaction of breaking multiple pieces. I want to break the monster's face. I want to chop his tail. I want to break his wings. I want to crack his back. I want to do all the things. And I can't do that because the monsters don't survive long enough. And it's like, I could nerf myself. Yeah, I can go in there with a level 1 gun lance. Like, oh, that's going to be so fun. It's like, come on, what are we doing? Hell, give me a level 1 gun lance with the sharpness of a regular gun lance. I'll do that. I don't want to be sharpening the weapon every 2 seconds.
Okay, this is great. I'm glad. We're finally talking about it. We need to go back. We need to see here. I've been trying to couch my arguments in a world versus Wilds language because I really don't want to be beholden to old arguments about Generations Ultimate and other stuff that I don't fully understand. So I've been trying to be very careful with my language and be like, I'm not talking about the old Generations. I'm talking about strictly World to Wilds. It's fresher in people's memories. People remember how World was. They can go back and play it easily. They don't need to use an emulator. They can go and check the numbers themselves to see if they're doing more damage or if your health was lower. They can check all this stuff on their own. It's the difference is stark and obvious. But no, I really did enjoy Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate when I played it for the first time, and I was like, damn, there's a lot here that that's good. It's a lot here that's good, and I totally see why people were angry at World to begin with. And this hub thing is something that I think I talked about this early on in my Monster Hunter Rise videos. It's been a super long time, but no, yeah, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the scaling like that. And
I've made it worse.
You've radicalized me. You've radicalized me is what you've done, because like here I am bitching about the difficulty. This is kind of like a hard mode. Like if I want to play by myself and the hunt takes me 20 minutes. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the downside? I see no downside anymore.
The biggest issue is people that can't play online. That's going to be the biggest issue because it's going to be very hard for them if they want to like grind and whatnot. And to be honest, I don't have the solution for that unless maybe just have a solo version of Master Rank, which is scaled specifically for solo, and you don't get to do the hub quests.
Safi Jiva eventually and Kovacharoth eventually became single player. So like,
listen, a reasonable person is not going to do solo Safi Jiva. That's insane. No.
No, I know, but
like,
they scaled it. They scaled it. No. They scaled.
I know they scaled it, but it's miserable. It's a miserable fight to do by yourself. It's terrible.
Well, it's not fun. Obviously, multiple players.
Exactly. It's not fun.
But it's doable. They scaled it so that you can do it as one guy rather than needing to take in 4 people.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
there you go. That's your solution. Later down the line, after the games, all the title updates are done. They should patch it in so that you can do it solo. And that's that.
I'm actually, you know what? I'm okay with that. Yeah. Later down the line, they patch it, and now you can do it solo.
Yeah, just like they did with Safi. That's the solution. Then I get what I want, and everybody else can have what they want later.
Yeah. No, but it's like I think it would be cool, and the thing is, these are always going to be very polarizing arguments because at the end of the day, I'm going to continue enjoying the game for as long as it's enjoyable for me, which right now it still is. Wilds is a tremendously enjoyable game. I love hunting in Wilds. I know that we've been focusing on the criticisms and all of that stuff, but like I love hunting in Wilds. I love the immersion that you get from Wilds. I like the story of Wilds, like I told you. There's a ton of stuff to like about Wilds. I finally got a proper implementation of the Gunlance, and now everybody's screaming to the rooftops, nerf it! Nerf the Gunlance! It can't possibly be this good. What people don't understand is that Gunlance players have been eating shit for years, okay? We've been eating shit for years, and finally, we get a good version of the weapon. No wonder we feel like we're overpowered, and you guys feel like we're overpowered. We've been in the hyperbolic time chamber for decades with our weapon. When we got out now, we're no longer weighed down by like the garbage of the damage that the weapon was dealing. Now we're dealing some proper deeps, and people are mad. Well, that's just too bad, son. It is what it is.
I am not mad. I'm happy that you got what you wanted out of the weapon. But I did put that little thing. Yeah. I did put a little thing for you in my video.
I saw. You might as well put I don't know if you put like a picture of me in there or not, because I was listening to it. I wasn't watching it because I was like mopping the floor and listening to it while I was doing it. I don't know if you put like my face on there. You might as well, the way that you said it. Do you actually believe what you said?
Yeah, yes. I think that skill floor in terms of ease of use, Gunlance is way easier to use than Longsword. It's true. It's just true. No. It's a fact.
Let me tell you why it's not. Because you have hyper armor on your best moves and I don't.
That doesn't matter. It's simpler.
What? Excuse me?
I'm not making the argument that the longsword is complicated or hard.
You deal more damage, and you have hyper armor.
It's easier to do your moves, bro. It's just easier to play Gunlance. Oh, good. Because you got 2 button gameplay. You can literally charge by pressing.
You can charge by pressing 1 button.
In Gunlance?
No, in Longsword, you can level up by pressing 1 button.
Oh, yeah. That still listen, it's true. You gotta admit it. You have to admit. Okay. See, this is what's happening.
So let me explain. Let me just tell you something. Okay. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying because I hear everybody say this. Oh, you can just like triangle circle and it does everything.
It's over. Yeah.
Okay.
That's your whole
do that
combo.
To Gore Magala. Let me tell you how that works. Let me know how it works.
Yeah, but you obviously don't. Okay, obviously at the hardest of the hard things, you don't want to spam it. But then you've got guard counter, which is really strong. Not guard counter. Yeah. Perfect guard, which is really strong and really easy to do. Easier to do than trying to. Yes, it's easier to do than trying to EI Spirit Slash. Yeah, I had a breezy time.
Have you done it?
I have played the Gunlance. Yes, I tried it out.
Against the later monsters?
Not against the later monsters.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Just checking.
Why?
It's not as easy as you think.
Okay, well, maybe I'll have
It's not as because a lot of the monsters do the Margit derangement syndrome thing.
Yeah, but in those cases, that's a problem that we have too as an EI Spirit Slash user.
Yeah, I know.
But you guys have the benefit of also still be blocking when you mistime it. So you mistime it, okay, but at least you're still blocking.
You can get hit because there's a time when you pull up the shield, you're not blocking in the beginning, and then if you want to try it again, you're not blocking while you're trying again.
Yeah, so you don't want to Sekiro spam it. You don't want to Sekiro spam it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can still get hit. Now, is it easier than pulling AI Spirit Slash? I don't know because I haven't played Longsword yet. Last time I showed people that I could land Spirit Slashes no problem on one of the monsters. That was the monster that would give me the most issues.
Yeah.
So
I think you should try it out.
I could probably do it again.
Yeah, do it again and get people mad at you again. Get the longsword people angry at you.
I don't want to do it again because then people start saying that I hate the weapon. I don't hate the weapon, but I don't agree with what you said because, like I said, your attack has hyper armor and on. Not even just
I didn't say that it's stronger. No, my longsword's stronger. I'm saying it's easier to use. It is easier to use the gun lance than it is. It's very simple.
Easier to use does not mean it is easier to go through the game with it. Because I can agree that it's easier to use than the longsword. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, see, that's all I wanted.
No, that's fine, but that doesn't make the game easier. The weapon is easier to use. Yes.
Okay, so the point that I was making in that part of the video specifically was people will say that I will have had an easier time using the longsword. But I just wanted to point out, well, when you're using the longsword and you're trying to learn the timings, you're trying to learn the EI Spirit Slash timings, which
you're going to get slapped.
So you're going to get hit a lot.
You're going to get slapped.
Whereas if you were
I'll get slapped less with the gun lance, yes.
Yeah, and if you're playing
I'll
a different
deal more
weapon,
damage with the longsword.
Yes, you'll deal more damage with the longsword. But if you other weapons will just move out of the way and not deal with the thing. But longsword's just sitting there trying to hit the timing.
So here's what I'll say though: once I become the best gun lance player in the game, and you become the best longsword player in the game,
then I will have an easier time. Yes, it's true.
You will have an infinitely easier time with your weapon. That's the point that I'm making. It's like when you get the equal skill level and you get up there with the skill level, there's no shot that anybody can make the argument that it is easier to play the game with the gun lance.
Absolutely. I was just defending myself from those.
Just look at Peppo memeing on every single monster in the game. And it's not even remotely close because you have the EI Spirit Slash, you have the Fate. It's not Fate Slash. What's it called? The one that I hate doing
because I
can never land it. The Foresight Slash. Yes, the Foreskin Slash. That's the one. So Foresight Slash, EI Spirit Slash, and then you do that in red, and you do a little hop, and it just jumps all over the place. And I saw you do those things. I was like, look at this motherfucker styling on these monsters. What the hell? I don't even know how to do that, and I have to make the guide for it.
Comments were talking about it. Was crazy. I had so many comments talking about how poorly I was performing against Arc Build. It's missing my timings. First of all, I thought I was doing okay, but second of all, that cuts to my point. What do you mean I can't criticize how easy it is if I'm doing badly? That should mean I should get to criticize more.
Exactly. If you're doing that poorly and you're still having an easy time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I just think that people have gotten too accustomed to shitting on the longsword. Now that the sword and shield is super easy to use, they're down here in the mud with the rest of us easy, like the dual blades and the bow guns and the sword and shield and gunless. You don't want to be seen with us. We should be buddies now. We're in the easy weapon club. Join me, brother. And you're like, ew, a longsword user when we're both both out here in poverty.
Like I said, you still deal too much damage for us to be equal. That's the problem. They need to nerf your damage. Then we can talk.
Then we can talk.
No, I'm joking. The last thing I want, and this is something that I've mentioned multiple times, but I think that people don't listen when I say this for whatever reason. It just kind of filters out of their minds. But I've repeated this on so many videos. This is not the game where weapons are going to be balanced. It's just not that game. And it's never going to be. And I'm okay with that.
Mm.
I don't care. Like whenever people are like, "Oh, this weapon's more powerful," I'm like, "Okay, that's real cool, bro."
They're
I
all
don't
kind of
I don't
super
care.
strong. There's really no need to be complaining about that anymore. They're just all really strong. So
Yeah, they're all beast mode. Except maybe I mean, I still think it's strong, but it's awkward as hell to use the insect glaive. I think insect glaive is the only weapon that really needs. They just need to fix that control scheme. It's a terrible control scheme. But other than that, I don't know all the other weapons because I think my next guide's gonna be hammer, so I'm still gonna start working on that soon. But yeah, it's like all the weapons are pretty good. As a matter of fact, maybe even too good considering how much we're just mauling monsters left, right, and center.
my friend that uses guns is really unhappy with how the guns turned out because I guess I've never used the guns. I'm playing Monster Hunter. I don't want to use the guns. But he apparently the guns had a lot more of management back in World, and he's just like it's
Yes.
just hates it. Just hates it. It's like my weapon's gone. I don't recognize it anymore.
I mean, yeah, I've seen some people complain about that, which is to me it's the other way around. The reason I never use guns is because they have too much management. Because for instance, when I played Tokiden, which is another hunting game, in the first Tokiden game, the weapon that I used was the bow. I was a bow main in that game because it had no management. So what I would do was none of my friends wanted to play ranged. And so there would always be one part of the monster that we wouldn't chop off because of that. So I would be the one, okay, I'll chop off that piece with like the super shot that the bow has. So I played bow, and then in Tokiden Kiwami I played the rifle because it was a rifle. So I just played that because there was no ammo management. So if there was no ammo management in Wilds, I'd probably play one of those. But there still is some ammo management, even though it's much less. I still wouldn't want to do it. It's like, oh, I still have to know how many shots I have of elemental ammunition or something. It's like, nah, I don't want that. I just want to shoot things nonstop. That's why I have the gun lance. I can shoot things, reload, good to go. Never have to worry about doing anything but sharpening my gun lance. It's all good.
I'm thinking about all that footage. I'm sure I lost. I was like, God damn it! I gotta go check how much is there. But it's fine if we did lose a great deal. Then when we do a podcast in your channel, like it won't look to people like we've retreading the same ground.
We're treading the same ground, yeah. I mean, the next one that I'd want to do would be after both of us play Title Update
Title
1,
update,
because we'll
yeah.
have more opinions, see how that plays out, and then we can hash over a little bit more of how we feel about the base game versus what we got with the Title Update and all of that stuff.
I agree. I think that'd be a good place to do it. I'm out of topics. If you're out of topics, we can wrap it up.
Yep. I'm out of topics as well.
Perfect. This has been the Yggdrasil podcast. Thank you all very much for coming. Rurikhan, thank you for coming as well.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good day.